Hey guys, testing, testing. Oh, what we got wrong here? Testing. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ambient Bass Effects Mornings. So, for those of you just joining us, go ahead and hit that hype button for me. Go ahead and hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you like this type of stuff. So, this type of session, I do a couple different types of live streams. This one is more geared towards just playing more so ambient bass effects type things and showing some of the flexibility of what a bass guitar really can do. A lot of people think a bass guitar can only play bass lines, and we can do a lot more than that, right? We can compose from our instrument. We can play multiple parts at once. We can slap. We can literally carry the whole band, which we do all the time, right? So, the hardest part about being a bass player is we never get to do stuff like that until we get our own band going, our own thing going. So, how many times on a gig have you been able to do stuff like that? And, a lot of you guys do ambient bass stuff, but until you do your own thing, you'll never really fully reach your potential, especially as a bass player. And I say that because people don't really care to hear your full potential because it doesn't benefit them. And a lot of times our job is to make people dance and keep the party going. So you got to keep these things in mind. But don't be afraid to explore. Don't let anybody put you in a box, especially for your own projects, right? Do what you want on your own project on your own time, right? Hit that like button for me. It helps me out a lot, though. And if you want to check out my Patreon, it'll have a lot of these different presets for different pedals, the ToneX, Zoom MS-60B plus, MS-70 CDR plus, Zoom B6, the Enzo X, the Future Impact, all that stuff is available on the Patreon. And if you just want to support the channel, I greatly appreciate it. You can do that on the Patreon. All right, let's get back to some more stuff. Y'all got any questions? Well, let me see what we got here. Somebody asked a couple questions here. All right. Well, and let's do this real quick. I'm gonna answer these questions real quick. I do appreciate you, Nair. You've been hanging in there with quite a few live streams with me, so I'll definitely answer these questions for you. For example, would a beginner be better off starting with 4-string, short scale, or set? You start off whatever you want to be honest. I did start on a 4, quickly moved to 5, got to 6 real quick within a couple years, and I've been playing 6 ever since. So it's really what you ultimately plan on doing is what instrument you want to choose, you know. And, I'm not one of those guys that flops back and forth between 4, 5, and 6. I only play 6 because it always gives me the availability of all the other 2. So for me, it's no reason. And what pedals do you recommend if you can only recommend a couple? Well, problem is, if you only want to get something like that, you're going to have to get something like a multi-effects unit. So if this is your first pedal, I recommend something like a Zoom MS-60B plus. It's going to be like $120, and it's also going to give you a ton of options. It's going to give you reverbs, delays, amp models, preamps, and it has a pretty good 1073 pre on there. Now, the one on the Zoom B6 is better. The Zoom B6 has twice the sample rate of the multi-stomp, so it's like, and the sounds, you can hear the difference in the sounds. It's much better quality. So, I wouldn't just bank on one pedal doing everything, period. As you can see, I'm not really that big of an advocate for one pedal, but if you just want some really good amp models, check out the ToneX. That's going to give you access to a ton of different preamps, especially if you go to my Patreon. I got 11 different preamps on there, everything from Ampeg, SGT and it sounds spot on. It's a lot better it's a lot better modeling or closer modeling than some of the other ones. And another guitarist on YouTube did a comparison, like one of them scientific comparisons of which is better, and ToneX came out on top, of course. And when you listen to it and you play it, it feels really good, you know. Like, just for instance, real quick. So take off that chorus. So this is a color box and an AG preamp. Let me turn off this mic. Same setup, but with the bright and boost on. The bright and deep switches on, rather. So you can, with this ToneX sounds spot on. Like that is the color box, JHS color box running into the Aguilar AG preamp sounds just like that. Nice and super firm, just like you would expect from a So you can get, you can get dirty, McNasty with the ToneX. So ToneX, don't sleep on it. It is an amazing pedal, and you also get a noise gate, compressor, modulations, delay, and reverb. Now, are these the most extensive parameters for each one? And no, it ain't all that. But if you are for instance, a beginner, like what we're talking about, the ToneX one is going to be much simpler. For instance, when you download my preset packs, it's already EQ'd the way I EQ, right? And I EQ for a wide variety of sounds. So even from that very sound, I can very much go chordal. And you just do it all from your bass, you know, and it makes it a lot easier. I can go from that to and I never even switch settings. You know, I can go to a straight up finger style. If I want to warm it up, I can. You know. So even when I want to darken it up, I did all that from just my bass. I didn't actually have to do anything else from the preset. So, and you still have an EQ on it. So say when you get my preset, say my preset got a little bit too much booty on it for you. You know, you just it's already have the EQ set up to where, you know, if you turn the bass knob, it's going to affect the proper bass frequencies for you and all of that stuff. So definitely check it out. And not only that, AG. Well, this is the color box running into the Aguilar. What did I say? This is the color box running to the Ampeg SGT, just the preamp. With the B15 circuit on. So these little things about the ToneX are like, they are super. It's super easy, especially like I said. Not like of course I gotta sell. This is how I do. But you know what I'm saying. But at the same time, the reason I got the ToneX is so I could carry a bunch of different preamps at once. Now imagine me trying to carry my color box. Look at the size of these things. A color box plus these two on your pedal board, like that's a lot. That's a lot. These are massive units, you know, compared to. Let's switch over to the pedal board view. Compared to now, let's see it in the SGT is the biggest one. So look at this in comparison to my hand, right? It's about the same length and width as my hand. Now look at the ToneX. This the ToneX right here. You probably missed it. This is the ToneX. Bam. Little small, teeny, tiny pedal, and it carries all my different preamp sounds. Not only that, it comes with 4 pieces of software. So things like that are invaluable to you as a bass player. I can have dirty tones. I can have amps they don't make anymore. Amps, you can go to the website, get all that. Yeah, for a beginner, and you get unlimited amp models. You can always go on the ToneNet and download more amp models for free. You can always come to my joint, download mine. You can go to other people's and download theirs. That's what makes the ecosystem of it so good. Plus, you can record dry into your DAW and then put your tone models on there because it comes with a plugin for your DAW, and it also comes with Amplitude, which is another recording software. So for sure, check that out. All right. We need to get back to some music real quick. I just wanted to take that detour. That particular subscriber, they've been on me, and in terms of just asking questions and stuff. So I want to make sure I answer your questions that you guys ask me. You know, and you know, this is a good time to ask random questions. You know, not really random. It's got to be about bass and effects, hopefully. You know, but it's a good time to ask questions, you know, when I stop. But I'm going to get back to playing for a bit so you guys can listen. All right, peace. Be right back. Yeah, so that's a good reason to keep a looper on your pedal board right there. You know, you can create your little tunes very quickly. You can make your sections in it. So if you notice when I was making it, started with the chords, just establishing the general foundation and mood of the song, make sure y'all hit that like button for me. Make sure y'all hit that like button. It helps me out so much, and it don't cost you nothing. Hit that subscribe if you love this kind of content as well. So, simple 3-chord structure, right? So, from there, you know, and I built that out of 3 different layers. 2 Enzo X patches, which are available on my Patreon. You can use that same exact sound with a keyboard as well with the Enzo X. That's amazing. So, you know, you got all this on one, just 3 different things that each add their own little thing. Simple. 4 tracks here. The 3 layers, bass line. And we started adding like snare. Well, that's actually an 88. Snare and kick. But when you're putting it together, you gotta keep it in mind what you after. So, if you're just joining us, welcome to Ambient Bass Effects Afternoons. I am the Bass Negus, and make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit that hype button. I'm trying to see how that helped me out. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button, hit the reactions for me. I appreciate all you guys hanging out. Feel free to ask questions about how I'm achieving some of this stuff and all that good stuff. So that ARP sound you were hearing. That's actually the Enzo X, and it's a patch on the Enzo X that's actually comes as one of the stock presets, but I tweaked. I had to go through every single preset on the Enzo X, all the 100 presets, and get them to optimize them pretty much for bass guitar use. And I would say you want to cut your lows, boost your low mids, and maybe cut your highs a little bit, and that helps the track better, a lot better, especially quarterly. But using chords, But as you can hear, it just sounds so sweet. And all this is in the Enzo X pack on my Patreon, so you ain't gotta worry about that. As well as that bass sound is also from the Future Impact. That's also on the Patreon, Future Impact preset pack. And I would recommend for your experimental stuff and like newer sounding bass synths, get you an Enzo X. If you want the vintage bass synths like the Moog Sounds ARP 2600, get you a Future Impact. And the Future Impact allows you to MIDI out and control other synths and stuff too with your bass, tracking your bass. The Hog too. I love the Hog too. That's my favorite octaver. You can just do so much with this thing here. Switch over to the pedal board view. But yeah, so I just have a tendency to keep. You always want to have a looper on board with you. You know what I'm saying? And what that does is it helps you always have access to a recording studio pretty much, and you don't have to do too much, to get it done. You don't have to set anything up additionally. All you have to do is press record. And when you make things that convenient for you to do, you're more likely to do them, if you really want to do it, But sometimes as musicians, we don't really want to go into all the technical stuff, and I don't want to have to set up, my mixer and go into Logic and do all of this stuff and then record that way. It's a much easier workflow in terms of your creativity. Think of it like a notepad. So have a good looper that has maybe a SD card storage on it or something like that. And that way, something like the Jam Man Solo HD is really good because while it is still 24-bit, 44.1, the rate, the conversion rate, and the things, put it like this, that's exactly how that sounded when I recorded it. And that's all you need. That's all you need. I need it to sound exactly how I recorded it into the software, or into the pedal. And that way I can take that direct file there. That's why I save that original idea like that sparked the loop. And then when I go to throw this or recreate this in Logic, I can then take this exact audio file from the SD card, throw it into Logic, and it's a WAV file, uncompressed, 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz CD quality. And as you can hear that, it ain't lose nothing, I gotta keep that loop on hand. It's not always having the difficult ideas. Sometimes it's the easy ones. And sometimes, as you get more skill on the instrument in different ways, you're gonna have of course you want to use them. But the thing about being a mature, musician that is employable, not even employable, because I've never been employed by anybody. I'm only contracted. I work for myself. But in order to be eligible to be contracted to other musicians and bands and stuff, you got to make sure you use your skills wisely as you gain them. With much power comes much responsibility. So be responsible with where you placing licks and where you using different techniques and how you're applying things. So like I did a duo gig yesterday, and it was the perfect time for me. It's me and a trumpet player, my boy Alex Parchment, and check him out when you get a chance. But it allowed me to do a lot more because there was a lot more space there. He's not doing anything but playing single notes and solos and melodies. It gives me a chance to fill out the drum parts just like I just did there on the loop. Gives me a chance to do things like that live. In addition to when I do my solo shows, that's exactly what I do for myself. I pretty much lay all that stuff down. I do it a little faster live, but I get it laid down and then I go to work. I create a something to stand on, a platform, a base, a foundation, and then I go and I build the rest live in front of you. And the hard part sometimes is, you got to have perfect timing while you're on stage, to do it. You got to control your nerves. You are performing by yourself. And anytime you're performing by yourself, it leaves you very vulnerable. But it's a good place to be. Vulnerability isn't a bad thing. It exposes you and allows you to grow. Let me see you soon. Let me make sure I get these chats in here. I appreciate all y'all. If you got any questions, it's a great time to throw them up while I'm chilling out, taking a quick break, talking and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. Hey, even if you sign up for free, it just if you sign up for the Patreon free, all that's going to do is keep you up to date with what I have going on and when I'm releasing new products or when I'm going on tour and where I'm going to be at and things like that for shows. So if anything, it just helps you keep up to date when I have new stuff coming out or I may be coming to a city near you, and the crazy part about that, he said, I love the analog feel. The crazy part is nothing in the Enzo X is analog. Like that whole ARP sound is all digital. They did an amazing job with that unit. The Enzo X has so many effects in it for ambient stuff. It's just ridiculous. I can just start turning knobs. Turn the knob. Let me see. I ain't even play a noise for real. I ain't even play a noise. That already gets you there. That's fire. Just so many just stupid sounds in that joint. So, I would always recommend the Enzo X. Like, I'm not in, mind you, I'm not endorsed by any of these companies. I literally buy all this stuff myself and review it. So, the Enzo X is just insane. Like it's no other synth pedal that's anything close to an Enzo X, and there's no other pedal that's close to the Future Impact. So those are the two synth pedals I've really, truly, ultimately recommend. Like wholeheartedly say you will use them. The sounds will inspire you, and they will keep you inspired. And they're not the same sounds you're gonna find on any keyboard or anything like that. It's all like very unique sounds. So, and it sounds like itself. It doesn't sound like another synth. Like this Future Impact sounds like those vintage synths, the Moog, and I love it for that because it's who wouldn't want a Moog this size? Like, look how small it is. Like, who doesn't want a ARP 2600 that size? Like everybody does. So, I would recommend if you want like the most unique sounds. I mean, even the Future Impact gets you some very, very unique sounds. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it can get you some seriously amazing, unique sounds that you can't even do with any of the vintage synths. So I don't want to get that misunderstood. And you have way more oscillators with the Future Impact. You have 4 oscillators that can be each a combination of a square, a triangle, or a saw wave. And I mean literally a combination of those. And it has the parameters to alter those. So it's hard to beat that. And then you have with the Enzo X, you only get two of those. The Future Impact, first of all, you got 4 oscillators, and then you still got a whole separate routing of, you can have octavers and all that stuff. What's going on, Paula? Appreciate you chiming in. Appreciate you. But it's just you can have all your synth oscillators and your octaver and octave up, octave down, and then harmonizer block and all that stuff running at once separate, plus your dry signal and everything else. You can run your dry signal through the ASDR. ADSR. Excuse me, I don't know why I said it like that. And same thing for the Enzo X. You can run your dry bass signal through the ADSR of, the envelope one or the filter one. So, these little things today are amazing. And mind you, the Enzo X is big for a pedal. It's big for a pedal, but it's not big for a synth for what it is. You know what I'm saying? So, for real, if I was going to recommend as a basis, what would you use more on a gig? Probably the Future Impact. But which one is, but the Enzo X inspires me so much. Like, what? How you gonna give me these sounds and say you're not inspired? You pretty much got a $600 keyboard engine with tons of effects. Look at that booty on that thing. And it's got a noise, that white noise in there. You can use that. Same thing. You can do that on the Future Impact as well. So, and all of these are just available for you to just go and download. You don't even have to program these pedals yourself. You get a Future Impact Enzo X, just go to my Patreon. Both of those packs are there. So, the Enzo X one has 100 presets that are optimized for bass. A lot of those are original presets that I created myself, the majority of those actually. And then there are, if a patch is good, ain't no point of recreating it. But none of the pedal, like I said, when you get the Enzo X, you'll understand what I'm saying. None of it was optimized to track my bass properly. I had to go in and do all of that and even change the patches and the envelopes, the ADSRs, to make them track the bass or play correctly when it's tracking my bass. So when you get it, you'll understand. But it is amazing. Yeah, Enzo X got some nasty. This is just dirty. Yeah. So just absolutely amazing. All in one box. That's literally just the Enzo X by itself. It's nothing else on there at the moment. Well, the source audio Atlas compressor, which is just doing limiting and a little bit of saturation on there, but for the most part, that's even without it. So yeah, the Enzo S can do everything very well. And I think even if you got just the Enzo X, it would be fine. You know what I'm saying? You'd be fine with your bass synths and stuff. But that Future Impact is another level of bass synth. No, I haven't tried the Empress. That Empress. I think that's that little box thing. No, I haven't tried that. It's all it is like a little multi effects unit kind of just. It's not this. It's not gonna do anything compared to these two that these two can't do. Um, you know what I'm saying? So, but I will. What I do is a lot of times it's based on demand. So, you know, a lot of times I try, even though I get mostly pedals I'm interested in personally. When you guys like that MXR bass synth pedal, I've gotten a lot of requests from you all, from the community in general, about that pedal, just because they know I'm gonna give it an honest review. They know if it really sucks, I'm gonna tell you. I'm like, because everybody says everything is great when they selling it to you. That's why I told you guys, even when you get my preset packs, I'm selling them. You know what I'm saying? But I make sure I put real effort into those things. You know what I'm saying? It ain't thrown together. It took me hours to put each one together, and even took weeks, because I actually took them out and did that stuff. So, everybody's selling something, going to try to, tell you it's great. But you'll tell the difference when you get it in your hands. You can really tell the quality. When you play it, you can really tell the difference if it was really what they're saying it was in the video, and not just a quick clip of them, the tracking acting correctly. Then, all these pedals are going to glitch out at some point, to a certain degree. It's the amount, and is it within an acceptable range? So here is like the Future Impact. Like you hearing it doing that, that means, all right, let me make some adjustments here. A little hot there. So. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why it just did that. That's something. Panda Audio. I gotta fix that. Or tell me how can I do that on stage? Because that would be extremely annoying on stage. Like through a PA system? Oh my goodness, that would have trying to kill the fans. So, you got stuff like that. You got all the vintage bass stuff. So yeah, you can get funk McNasty with that future impact. Like I said, no pedal is perfect. He squeezed a lot in. The guy that created this pedal squeezed a ton of stuff in here. So excuse some flaws. He can fix that with an upgrade. You know what I'm saying, of the update of the firmware. You know what I'm saying? So don't let that deter you. Still an amazing pedal. It's just so much crammed into there. It's amazing. So check the Future Impact out, Enzo X. The MS-70 CDR Plus is another one that gets slept on. It sounds amazing. So Stacy, that was just the Future Impact. You can achieve the sounds by going to my Patreon and downloading the Future Impact preset pack, and you'll have all these sounds that you were listening to exactly that way. Then from there, you need to pay attention to the input level knob here, and as well as the note on level and the note off level. That's going to determine how well it's tracking what you're doing, and then go from there. But the MS-70 CDR Plus is another just killer pedal that sounds great. Hit that like button while y'all here and subscribe so you can keep up with the nation. Hit the hype button. Let me see. Help me out. Let me see what this hype button do. They just added it, so I want to see what it do. But I appreciate all y'all showing the love, hanging out with me in general. But the MS-70 CDR Plus is another pedal that can really upgrade your pedal board. It's got all types of modulations, and the modulations are killer. Like, sound really like beefy and thick. And how like I'll just say this: the reason I don't like the modulations on the HX1, which you see right there, is because they're too thin. And they might be perfect for guitar, but they're too thin for me for bass, and a lot of them don't have a dry mix knob in them either. So like the ones on the MS-70 CDR Plus, they do have the bass and guitar versions of the modulations on there, but they also have, the all important mix knob in there, as well as they are spot on with their modulations. Like their modulation emulations, algorithms, whatever, is pretty much spot on. So, excuse me. Sorry about that. But that's something else worth checking out, as well as the delays and reverbs in there. Now, a little tip for the reverbs in the MS-70 CDR Plus. They are amazing, but the stereo field of them feels a little small. If you feel like the reverbs feel small compared to something like the HX1, what you can do is run that reverb into the air reverb effect on the Zoom pedals. And this works for all the Zoom pedals that have reverbs. They usually have like the HD Hall. You can take that, run that into the air effect, and that makes that sound so much bigger. And I can't even take credit for that tip. I got that tip from a comment section. I wish I remember the guy's name. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but a guy had commented that, and I tried it, and I was like, oh, that instantly puts it on a level like sonically with the HX1's reverbs. I love the reverbs in the HX1, but and they sound so big and massive and full and clear. So I really like the HX1 for reverbs and stuff like that, and the delays are good. But those same delays are in the MS-70 CDR Plus, and they sound just as good in the MS-70 CDR Plus, and it's at a fraction of the cost. And like I said, if you want to get the reverbs up to speed, you just run every reverb you run that air effect after it on the Zoom pedals. And that same thing for the Zoom B6. You run that HD Hall into the air effect, and that just makes it sound so much bigger sonically. So that's a little tip for your pads if you're a Zoom user. I love Zoom pedals. They're reasonably priced, and they sound amazing. And they've upgraded the analog circuitry, so when it's bypassed, then it is a buffered bypass. So the difference between true bypass and buffered bypass means the signal's always going through the pedal circuitry, instead of going true bypass, it would skip over the circuitry and go straight to the output. So, and the difference is the buffered one just allows the pedal to be able to turn on and off smoothly, without any, issues. So, they've upgraded the circuitry compared to the original. This is original MS-50G right here. And I have to have this on its own separate loop because when it's bypassed, it still colors my sound in the way I don't want it to. So I have to have a way to take that in and out of my loop to keep, eventually I'll upgrade this to the newer one. But yeah, so, I do recommend checking out the Plethora on TC Electronic Plethora X1 as well. If you're into ambient stuff, or if you want some really good modulations. Now, I would recommend the MS-70 CDR Plus over the Plethora X1 and the HX1. I would because you're getting 6 effects at a time. This is a no-brainer, and it has octavers in there that are pretty good. They're not as good as the ones on the HX1. Like, they're not as clean as the octavers on there, but they'll get you through a gig, and it can get you some unique sounds. I don't always want clean octavers. Sometimes I like octavers to have a little artifacts and different stuff, and I can use that for different things. But it also has filters. All the filters are way better in the MS-70 CDR Plus compared to the HX1 as well. So that's something to look at. The Plethora X1 is just very specific. The reason I got that one is because I like TC Electronics versions of effects. It ain't the only version of the effect I like, but if I can have them all in one pedal, why not? Compared to that new Boss pedal, the plug-in or plug-out, don't get that joint. Like, let's not do that because that's going to mess up the community. So that if you want to have us start paying for each individual effect on a multi-effects unit, which defeats the purpose of a multi-effects unit, then what we doing? So I'm not going for that at all. I'm not even going to review it. I'm just going to tell you don't do it, But yeah, the MS-70 CDR, if you're looking for something to really spruce up your rig, if you already got your amp models and you already got all that stuff, the MS-70 CDR Plus literally can finish out the rest of your pedal board in terms of reverbs, delays, modulations, filters. It even has a nice bit crusher, and it has what else is a ring mod? It's got ring mod in there too, and compressors. It's got a couple compressors in there, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yep, it's got compressors too. Let me, I just unchain my thing. Yep. But yeah, so it's definitely worth checking out in terms of a lot of people just sleeping on it. And they sleeping on it. It doesn't have any drives or amp models or nothing like that. But, you know, in terms of finishing your sound, like you might want to finish a synth sound off with it. It can finish off any sound. That's why I like it and keep it at the end of my frame, end of my chain rather. And HX1, the hard part about these ones that only do one effect at a time is when you put it in a place of your pedal board, you're now stuck with it there. So, you can't use it as a reverb and an octaver for real, like in stereo, and without moving it around your board. And that isn't really convenient. The MS-70 CDR Plus, you don't have to do all that. You got plenty of effects in there. You can have more than one at a time. You can have all your delay. You can have 3 delays running into a reverb and the air effect. And you still got room for another effect on there. You can add another chorus on, have all that running through a chorus or a flanger, and all that's on one patch. Versus if you get a HX1 or a TC Electronic Plethora X1, you kind of stuck with whatever effect you got on there at the time. Yes, you can change it on the fly and all that stuff, but it's nothing like when you can switch a patch and everything just comes together. It just makes it so much simpler. So, and with less pedals. So definitely check all that stuff out. In terms of ambient pedals, I didn't even get to the freeze pedals or nothing like that, But like the deep freeze and the layers are also really good options for ambient music for bass. I use the deep freeze in church. I'll be hitting. Look. You want me to sit there hold a note for 30 minutes? All right, I got you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna be able to move with it too. And I can make it more bass sound too. So little stuff like that, you don't have to sit there holding a note. You can even do it like that, where it's more, and that actually gives you more of like a synth type tone because it's just consistent, like you holding the key down, versus it fading out. I don't even know what a basser is. I'm a bassist. I play bass for a living. I guess if that's a basser, then yeah, sure. I build custom digital pedals. Anything special you're looking for? No, not particularly. But if you have something that you would like me to review that you already have, I'm not particularly. A lot of times, I'm a customer too. I don't always know what I want until I see it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna act like I'm super special. I always know what I want. No, sometimes I don't know what I want till I see it either, just like any other customer. That's why I always tell people trying to sell anything or trying to do anything with their products. People don't know what they want until you put it in front of them, and then they can decide because they aren't thinking along the same lines as you. Like I'm thinking, I'm more so I let effects inspire me versus trying to make the effect. I have particular sounds in my head, but it's like I more so look for new sounds and in different unexpected ways. So definitely if you got something you want to check me out, hit me up about, at the Bass Negus, Negus, on all social media. You could DM me or something. We can talk on offline, whatever, but nothing in particular that I'm looking for. If you got something that's really good, I will happily, share it with the community and all that good stuff. So, cause we getting there, folks. Y'all helping me out a lot, and I don't think of this as me doing this by myself. I think of this as we are building a community of bass players that care about effects and that want to be free to experiment and try different things without a million people trying to put us in a box if you can only sound like a bass guitar. Like, there's a lot of times where that's called for, but there's a lot of times if you ever want to get to your, some of your best moments are going to be not you playing a bass guitar line. Like, it just is. Like, some of your, when you go to solo, I don't suggest bass players stay in the pocket and do this. Like, you can stay in the pocket sometimes if they dancing. Like, if it's a dance gig, you stay in the pocket and solo. But if it's a real gig and you're the artist or you're with a real artist that wants a solo, play a daggone solo. Like, play a solo, not just keep playing bass lines as a solo. Nobody want to hear that, okay? So don't limit yourself. Don't let other people limit you. Don't even tell yourself I'm just a bassist. You're a musician. And musicians should be free to try out different sounds, different textures. The same way keyboard players are free to try out different sounds. Guitarists, everybody's free to try out different sounds, except for when it comes to us, they want to put us in a box. So don't let them put you in a box. Don't let them do it to you, because they will. But if you guys have any other questions, you can put it down in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. I appreciate all y'all hanging out with me. If you want to catch me again, I'll be back later on today, sometime after 4. But you're going to have to subscribe to know exactly when, because I don't have an exact time. But I would love to see you again. I would love to hang out with you again and come with your questions about pedals and effects. Or even, I'm also going to sign up for that Patreon, because I am about to do a bass improvisation course. It's not a bass. I don't know why I keep saying that. Because I use this system to get students in Juilliard, Berkeley, New School of Music, and everything. I have an improvisation course and pretty much a system to help you be able to process jazz theory in a way you will understand it, and it will help you build your vocabulary and the tools you need. It ain't going to be one. I don't do transcriptions. I've only done 2 transcriptions my entire life. I don't believe in transcribing. You need to transcribe other people's music like that. I believe in having the tools for your mind to be creative. You can't be creative without the knowledge and the tools. Like, you need those things so you can then discover and do everything else. So yeah, you'll find that this instrument is just as capable as any other instrument. We can solo and play anything that everybody else can play, including things like tapping. We can do stuff like this. Easy work. Let me see. Let me put it in. So let's give him a little work real quick. Just real quick. It's a lot you can do with bass. It's a lot you can do with bass. Just don't let people put you in a box. If I had only been playing or even if I only learned this, I would have never got to that. So, and if I let people tell me bass should only be playing bass, I would have never got to that type of stuff. But you got to know what's in your head and try to get the tools to be creative. I had to learn how to tap like that and play stride bass, which is something I'm kind of one of the pioneers of. Like, I had to have that image in my mind. Okay, what is a piano hammer's doing, and what is a pianist doing when they're doing stride technique, and then go from there and start just reverse engineering it for this particular instrument. So, but if I let people just tell me just play your bass lines, I'd have never got to none of that. So just be, you got your own private time. You should be using that wisely, always pushing yourself, even though you may be able to do everything you need to do as a bass player for a living. Like, I've been able to play bass, you know what I'm saying, play bass lines and all that stuff. That was never difficult for me. The challenge came getting the rest of my ideas and the rest of my creativity out of my system. And I had to learn the techniques, and I had to learn effects. I had to learn, like, sonically what that meant, and as well as physically and technique-wise what that meant. So these are the little things that's going to help separate you from everybody else around you. If you are doing the same thing, playing the same stuff everybody else playing, you're going to play the same. But my improvisation course will teach you a lot more than that. So make sure I say all that to say, make sure you go on the Patreon, sign up, even if it's for free. It lets you know when things are happening, when things are coming out. And if you want to do $1, $5 a month, to help out the channel, because I do buy these pedals myself, and I do give you honest reviews of these pedals so you don't waste your money and different things like that. Basically, I put the money back into it, So if you want to do that, then you can do it there. If you want to send a Cash App, Super Chat, I prefer Cash App, put in the memo. One of the subscribers helped make the Future Impact series of videos happen. So, shout out to Neo Lover 23. I appreciate you, and it's going to make half of the MXR bass synth review video happen. I just can't get it yet because it's sold out. But that particular subscriber, wanted to really see a real review of it, So feel free to participate. You ain't got to do it passively. You can participate in it even by buying the preset packs for the ToneX one. There's 11 different preamp packs available. MS-70 CDR, MS-60B Plus, the B6, Zoom B6, the Enzo X, Future Impact, the C4 Synth. All these have packs on the Patreon. So you want to support the channel, head over there. And if you would like to check out my music, I did an entire album called All Bass Creations. It's the name of my brand, but it's also an album. And I did an entire album with just my bass and effects, So I didn't use any MIDI. I didn't use any other instrument, just my bass and effects. And I made it sound like a whole album with drums and different, percussion type tracks. And everything sounds like a full track. And even got vocoder on there. So did a little bit of everything. And that's 8 tracks right there. Then I got another few tracks where I got another 2 tracks where it's me playing bass, lead bass. Pretty much I play keys and drums, and then everything else is bass on top of that. And then I have another 2 where it's 2 of my drummer friends join me, and I did everything else. So check out my music at allbasscreations.bandcamp.com. I greatly appreciate it. And follow me on all social media at the Bass Negus, Negus. I greatly appreciate it. But this has been hit that like button before you go. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that hype button for me. I really, really, really appreciate it. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can always just be hitting that reactions and stuff like that. That helps me out a lot as well. Those of you that did, thank you very much for the support. But this has been another episode of All Bass Curations, effects, tutorials, demos, and reviews. And this particular portion is Ambient Bass Effects Mornings. So we'll be doing a lot more of these. I'll see you guys sometimes after 4. All right.